Let's talk about a name that even today can just send a chill down your spine. Richard Ramirez. But this isn't just about the horrifying crimes of the man they called the Night Stalker. It's really about the huge shadow of fear he cast over an entire state and the way society itself changed because of his reign of terror.
And this, right here, gets to the absolute heart of it. Before Ramirez, most of us had this unspoken belief, right, that once you locked your door, you were safe. He just shattered that. All by himself, he made millions of people feel completely vulnerable in the one place they were supposed to be the safest, their own homes.
So to really get the impact, we have to go back. Picture California in the mid-1980s. The feeling in the air was pure panic. It was this wave of terror, and before anyone even knew his name, they absolutely knew the fear he was creating.
I mean, can you imagine that feeling? That simple, everyday act of locking your door at night, something you do without a second thought, suddenly it feels like this flimsy, almost pointless gesture against some unknown evil out there. That was the new reality for so many people.
And you can see how that fear showed up in the real world. This wasn't just a bad feeling. It had tangible, visible effects. People rushed out to install new deadbolts, bars on their windows, anything they could think of. Gun sales went through the roof, just skyrocketed. And underneath it all was this cloud of constant anxiety that just hung over entire neighborhoods. Society was literally changing its day-to-day behavior because of this one man.
So of course, this level of terror makes you ask the question, who on earth could be responsible for this? What kind of person is capable of this kind of random, horrific violence?
Well, this timeline gives us a little glimpse into how a monster like this can be made. Richard Ramirez was born into a pretty tough situation, but you can see how things just got worse and worse. He was exposed to some really extreme violence and crime through a family member, and that, combined with substance abuse, well, it created a direct path to the darkness that would end up defining him. And by 1984, that path led straight to California.
Okay, so with the attacks happening, law enforcement is in a full-blown crisis. They launched this massive effort to catch him. But this case, it was a complete nightmare for investigators who were desperately trying to stop the bloodshed.
And this was the million-dollar question that just haunted them. Usually, you try to find a pattern, right? A specific type of victim, a certain neighborhood. But with Ramirez, there was nothing. No pattern at all. He was like a ghost who just struck completely at random. Now, what's so powerful about this is how clearly it lays out the problem for you. Look at the victims. They had nothing in common. Young, old, men, women, different backgrounds. The attack locations were all over the map. That total randomness was his greatest weapon. It made traditional police work almost impossible. And right into this mix of fear and frustration comes the media. They gave him a name, the Night Stalker. And look, while it definitely raised awareness, this flashing nickname also had a huge side effect. It basically created a larger-than-life boogeyman, which just threw gasoline on the fire of public panic and turned the whole thing into a national obsession. So, after months of this living nightmare, the end came in a way that absolutely nobody saw coming. It wasn't some dramatic SWAT raid or a brilliant detective solving the case. It was something way more incredible.
And here it is, the incredible chain of events. First, forensics gets a huge break, a single fingerprint. That leads to his mugshot, which is then blasted on every TV and newspaper. And then, in this amazing turn of events, the very people he'd been terrorizing took matters into their own hands. Regular citizens in East LA recognized him, chased him down the street, and literally held him down until the police could get there. His reign of terror was ended not just by the police, but by the power of an empowered community. But even his capture wasn't the end of the spectacle. During his trial, Ramirez's behavior in court was just bizarre. He showed zero remorse, he'd flash satanic symbols. It just cemented that infamous, evil image he had in everyone's minds. So even after he was convicted and sent away for life, the story doesn't just stop. The shadow of the Night Stalker is a long one, and his crimes forced some really significant long-term conversations and changes in our society. This table does a great job of summing up those lasting effects. For crime prevention, it kicked off a whole new conversation about home security. For forensic science, it was a massive case that proved just how vital evidence like fingerprinting was becoming. It also made the media take a hard look at itself and ask questions about the ethics of sensationalizing these crimes. But maybe, just maybe, the most important legacy was how his capture showed the incredible power of community vigilance, of people looking out for each other. And in the end, this is really the most important thing to take away from this whole dark chapter. You know, it's easy to get fascinated by the monster,
But the true story isn't about making a criminal famous. It's about honoring the victims, the survivors, and the communities that had to live through that fear. It's a sobering reminder of the deep and lasting shadow that violence casts on all of us.